evening and welcome to the Wednesday, January 15th, 2014 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Just to let all of you know, the holiday for Martin Luther King is Monday, but today is his birthday. Just to remember. Okay, I haven't seen the minutes of the 15th and the 19th. Will we see it?
Yes, you will see them.
But I have read the minutes of the 8th. And
Make a motion to accept them
as usual, we have a wonderful record keeper.
We do.
We're very good. So I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, 2 seconds. All in favor of accepting the minutes of January 8th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability. Oh, your name's on here. I didn't even read that far. All right. Well, since
No,
there's,
she really came here just to see you.
that's what I believe.
Over all these years, I want to be legal, so here I am.
All right. So, since there's someone in the audience for an RDA, is there anyone else here for an RDA? You are too.
Very good.
Okay, let me just explain, so you're not worried. He already knows this, that if you hear there's a negative determination, don't panic. It's
That's a good thing.
good. Right. I mean, a positive is not bad, but a negative means you can go out of here and do what you agreed. And hopefully everybody will get negatives today. All right,
Circle gets the square.
Jen. William Murray, 77 Water Street, Woods Hole, for permission to reconstruct the existing deck to include a 2-foot cantilever.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project. We are recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundary now confirmed.
So move. Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote on the motion, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Lorraine Lutschner. Oh, that's you?
That's us.
You can stay,
You can stay. You're welcome.
but you can leave if you want also. Thank you. Lorraine Lutschner, 15 Pennsylvania Avenue East, Falmouth, for permission to replace the existing detached garage.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we have reviewed the project, recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundary now confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. I'm just curious, where's Pennsylvania Avenue?
It's up in the Heights.
Oh, in the Heights, okay. Brian Grozier, 351 Davisville Road and 59 Castle Road, East Falmouth, for permission to remove and replace 9 pylons.
Bless you.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we reviewed the project. We are recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundary now confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Hearing and seeing none. Motion to accept staff's recommendation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or you can leave.
I spent a few years here.
You've had enough time.
Miles to go before.
Yeah,
Amen.
good luck.
Nice
I'll,
meeting you.
I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call because I'd like
My
to,
contact info? My phone number?
is it a
Madam Chairman,
secret
I
number?
have it.
Or do you have
Yeah,
Brian's
yeah.
number?
Please, because I didn't know there was saltwater beavers, but apparently we have.
Well, I'm just curious to see. I would like to pursue,
Yeah. 'cause
find
it's
out what it is.
Not much, that's my number.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay, request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single order is issued, it represents a separate order under each authority. First, Andrew Spirito, 104 Minot Road, East Falmouth, for after-the-fact permission to construct a patio within the footprint of a previously removed deck and landscape beds to install native mitigation plantings and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll save any of my questions until after the applicant's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Brad Holmes. I'm a professional wetland scientist with Environmental Consulting Restoration. And we filed a notice of intent to permit the construction of a patio within the backyard at 104 Minnehaha Road. The property located at 104 Minnehaha Road, the entire property is within a developed barrier beach coastal dune resource area. It's also entirely within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And the work area is within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland that's been delineated in this region. The applicant removed a deck that was located here with 2 landscape beds that were surrounded with stone. He began the construction of a patio that's shown here in blue. He was notified by your office that a filing was needed. I was contacted to assist and put this application together. So what we're looking to do is to get approval for the construction of the patio, which sits within the general footprint of the deck that was removed. The calculations for mitigation were provided, and it shows that there's approximately 160 square feet of new area when you subtract the previously pre-existing structures to the proposed, so that leaves 480 square feet of mitigation proposed at 3:1. That would require 22 shrubs. So what we're doing is we're proposing mitigation plantings on either side of this fence that leads to this somewhat of a buffer that leads to the coastal wetland. We're actually proposing 600 square feet of mitigation, although we're required for 480. It's just going to look a little bit nicer and give a little bit more. It's currently exists as lawn now. What we're proposing to do is rub out the turf, install the shrubs, and then rake and seed the area with a coastal grassland seed mix that's salt tolerant. Certainly can take any questions that you may have. I think that's just a good overview of the project.
Okay, thanks. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the board should have received
A second.
a second fence.
Right,
So that's what
we
we should
have
be
it.
looking at with this stamp. That doesn't have any concerns about the project itself, but when we did go out there, there is some concerns about the property. One, the boat that's being stored in the salt marsh client does need to take that out of there. And also
Okay.
there's a little stone walkway on that needs to be removed. And
Okay.
the area was salt marsh grass, so.
I believe I remember that. I think there's a boat over in this location. It's kind of a dilapidated boat. That walkway that looked through this area. That's not a new. It's not a newly installed. It looks to be pretty historic to me.
Stones, so just get the stones out.
Out of the salt marsh, that's not a problem. So this section that leads through here to the wetland, and then within that, I think it ends in that.
Anything in the wetland needs to come out.
Okay, so then this area is fine in through here. That would be fine if you could put that in the
We'll do a
minutes.
special condition on that.
Yeah, we can
And
condition
he
that.
can
Sure.
remove the dilapidated boat.
And it's changed, oh, sorry.
Oh, well, I'll let you go first. You're ready with a question.
The original proposal said that you were going to use bayberry
Yes,
only. And now I
Right.
see a planting sheet in front of me.
those are actually data sheets to confirm the wetland line. We are proposing bayberry, beach plum, and sweet pepper bush for the shrubs. The
So
original,
it's not going to be one kind of shrub repeated in a pattern over the whole.
right, it will be at random to try to maybe mimic a little bit more of a natural environment. The original proposal that was submitted in the notice of intent, I worked with the administrator to
had
revise
beach
that.
plum. That had bearberry instead of you switched out the bearberry for the sweet pepper bush
Right, that had beach plum, bearberry,
and bayberry.
And bayberry.
bayberry, and was going to be American beach grass. So we've changed that to add more shrubs, remove the bearberry and beach grass, and go with a coastal grassland seed mix.
Okay. Anything else, Lord?
No, not
Oh.
at this time.
Okay, we can come back if you have another. Mike?
In the northwest corner of the property outside the fence, there's this pile of riprap, stone, rock, whatever the heck stuff is. Was that always there?
There's a stone wall that kind of follows in this region along the edge of the fence, I think.
It looks like at some point the stone wall was maybe piled up into a pile over in that
In
corner.
this area?
Yeah.
It could be, I didn't make note of that.
Well, I think we'll condition that any area of the wetland has to be the wetland resources. And actually, the buffer to the resources are also resources in this town.
Sure, that's not
Yeah.
a problem, we can clean it up. I think up and down that area, it's been somewhat manipulated over time.
I think so.
Through the entire area, not just this locus, so any debris, can certainly be removed.
Yeah, we would just encourage you to have the healthiest buffer and resource areas as possible.
No problem, we'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of invasives to begin with, and anything would help.
Yep.
Agreed.
As a positive, the construction of the fence, the delineation, and the general care of the property is really, applaud the owner.
I'll pass that along, thank you.
Tom?
This is all work by hand.
That's correct.
Okay, now how about getting the boat out, cutting it up, dragging it back? How do you,
I think it's more of a rowboat,
Yeah, I think
maybe,
you get
I think maybe a couple
Either
guys
two
could pull
or
it out.
4
Okay.
guys to, yeah, it's not
I
that big
think
a
so.
boat.
no, I just I wanna hear somebody say that, no, we're not gonna have a machine over there to pull it out.
Right.
No,
that-
we're gonna
that
be
can-
all hand by work by hand.
Right, so it's not dragged through the area and make more mess than needs to be
Thank
noted.
you.
Sure.
Courtney?
I have no questions, only a pronunciation correction. It's Minot Road, not Menon.
Thank you.
He's from out of town.
That's all right.
Well, I want him to be a native from now. No other questions.
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment.
Sure.
Hopefully, we'll see you here again sometime. And that is, what you have indicated on this is the 50-foot wetland, 50-foot buffer to the BVW.
Yes.
And a 100-foot buffer to the BVW. But there's also a 100-foot buffer, which is an A zone to the salt marsh. And that should be there because, I mean, this particular project, you're not into that. But that would be a relevant buffer if you were doing work between the 50 and, for instance, if you were doing any work on the dwelling. That would be in the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh, for most of it would be.
Okay, thank you. That's something that if we have to do any work additional, that will add to the plan.
Yeah.
The whole site is within the resource area.
Well,
and-
it's
and
it's in multiple resource
Exactly.
areas,
You have
including
plenty.
multiple overlapping buffer zones.
Right, exactly.
But like the guys, the 3 guys in back there are regularly in front of us, and they know that we want to see the most restrictive zone.
Sure, not a problem. If any additional work is proposed, we'll make sure that needs to be included.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second?
Any further questions? No? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to close this hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Now you can go back to where, Plymouth? You from
Yes.
Plymouth? And you can say that the Falmouth Conservation Commission doesn't deserve the reputation it has some places.
I've only heard good things, so.
Oh, well. Yo,
We
you must
definitely
be
don't deserve
You
that.
must be talking to
Well
the,
said.
to the engineers that regularly come
I've
here.
done very well. I hope to be back.
Yes, all right, good.
We can fix
We'll
that.
award you a
Thanks.
gold star.
Okay. Alexandra Engelstad, 23 Zell Street, East Falmouth, for permission to repair and maintain the existing licensed pier, including the replacement of pilings, superstructures, decking, and utilities. Matt, welcome.
Tim,
It's Tim.
Oh. Sorry.
I was like, who's Matt?
How many times have I done that?
A lot.
See, I just phased out.
For the record, Tim Santos from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant. Property is located at 23 Zell Street. It's an existing developed lot, single-family homes with a licensed pier. The resource area is on or within 100 feet of the property, land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, land under the ocean, and land containing shellfish. This project was before you, I believe, this summer, at which time an RDA was issued for repairing the pilings with a wrap. Since that time, the applicant has looked at it a little more, and they'd like to actually replace the pilings. Some of them are in serious need of replacement if you've been out there and looked at it. So we're here before you tonight, requesting to replace the pilings and the associated superstructure, because obviously we're gonna have to cut the stringers in order to replace the pilings, to remove and replace. Normally, this would be under an RDA. After speaking with staff, I thought it was appropriate, because I think there's probably 4 or 5 RDAs on this lot, that we should file a notice.
it's cleaner.
They have a DEP file number, a letter from DMF. If there's any
You
questions,
do not, or you do?
we do.
You do, okay.
If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Okay, thanks.
Tim, they cut, and I'm pretty sure I remember this, they cut that.
They
lower.
reduced that lower section.
Yeah. So they did a little lower. I'm not gonna issue that.
Yes, correct.
Okay, excellent. Staff, you know?
No. Court?
No questions.
No questions?
As it sits today, it doesn't appear like the diagram shows here. It's been cut back.
No, the diagram that's on that plan is the updated pier that is on the site today.
No. No.
Yes.
The pier today, that pier you've shown is 116 feet in length, and in the field it's not. It's been cut back. You show something like 22 piles, and there's only 15. That is the old pier. That is not the one that...
No. What was cut back was this lower section. I believe when it was built,
Right.
built in, Jennifer, more like 22 feet or 21 feet, and it was only supposed to be 16. This lower section was cut back. That's what was cut back.
As
The rest of the pier is the same as it's always been.
you show, by my count, something like 21 pier piles, as I count them all, and there's not 21 piles in the field. And by pacing, I get something like 90 feet of dock, and you're showing something like 115 feet of dock. All this is good. I think what is in the field is better than what you show, but there's a...
This dock that's shown on this plan was just located less than a month ago, so.
And I believe it's a
But
certified,
Signed and stamped by a professional land surveyor, professional engineer.
I think there's some
I didn't.
remnants of old plans that got transferred into yours, if I had to guess. And all this is,
I didn't
guess where
count
I'm
it.
coming from.
I didn't count the
Is
island.
there are something
I
like
didn't either.
15 piles out there. You are replacing 15 piles?
The piles that are there will be replaced,
So
correct.
there's something like that, and when you're
I
finished,
think there's more than
you're
that.
going to show, you'll give us a plan that shows what
It's
is actually
required to have an as-built. It's part of
required to have
compliance.
an as-built, and I guess all this is kind of academic.
That would be correct, but the number of piles that are shown on the plan,
Is not what's in the field. Unless I lost out count. I mean,
I mean, we locate every pile as we do it.
As long as you're not going from the 15 piles that are on the plan to the 21 piles that are shown here, I don't care. If you're going one for one, I'm
The
thrilled.
number of piles that are in the field, or the number of piles that will be back. Our plan shows 21 because we located 21.
Then God removed some number of piles between the time you drew it and the time I'm here, or that is an old plan. I'm just,
Mike, I didn't count the piles. I'll drive by tomorrow when I'm on my way to work, and I will count them.
and if you pace off,
Yep,
it's
I'll
not
take measure with
116
me.
feet.
If Mr. Santos would like to meet me out in the field tomorrow morning, we can count the piles together. Tim,
That's
how much
fine.
fun will that be?
There we go.
That'd be
And if
excellent.
you cut,
I just keep smiling and nodding.
Sure.
there you go. And maybe I just counted wrong, but
And that's
Well, I
fine.
can't
don't
wait to
think
hear
it's
what the
something-
answer next week is.
do we, if they're
What
going
I
to
would
replace what's in
suggest-
field, I don't think we need to,
What I would suggest is,
We'll go out and measure the length and everything.
well, I think we can close this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suggest you make a finding that it's replaced pile for pile what exists in the field. And,
Yeah, we're not asking for more piles.
No,
Yeah,
you
he-
should.
I'm
And
just
that's what
saying
we-
that our survey has located the number of piles that are shown on the plan, and that's what we want to replace.
right, and I can't wait to hear what the answer is.
get rid of the piles that were there.
Can you see all of them?
All the ones shy of where I was, yeah. But
Well,
we shall find.
are there any other
We'll
questions?
out there tomorrow morning too.
If I didn't have to,
What time
I
you gonna
really, I
go?
wouldn't.
I mean, if you look at the license plan that we submitted, the license plan shows, and it's very hard to read because it's 8.5 by 11, but
Yeah.
if you, it's the same number. If you look at the piles that are there,
They're
I
not
think,
there. I'm telling you, the dock is not 116 feet
Were
out,
you at
and
the
there are
right,
not that
maybe
many
he
piles
wasn't at
there.
the right
Were
place.
you at the right
Were you at
place?
the right place?
I hope so. It sure looked like the right place. It could be,
Well, all the
I-
docks kind of look alike. They go out and they have a T-section at the end.
Yeah, but they also don't have the other, yeah,
The bonfire.
the bump out,
Yeah, that's a little different.
yeah.
Well, we will,
I didn't count them.
Tell you what, Mike, I'll meet you out there tomorrow morning.
It's just me being anal, I apologize.
that's
No,
fine.
we'll just count them. 9 o'clock
There
tomorrow
you
morning.
go. You're gonna be there at
9 o'clock tomorrow
9
morning.
o'clock, I will be there. Just to be- And if I'm not there, you know we're at the wrong property.
Yep. I will call you.
Make them, I don't know if Lori has any.
yes. Laura, did you have any questions?
Motion to,
Would you like the motion to close and take it under
I
advisement?
got it written down.
I make a motion, we close this and take it under advisement.
second.
Okay, we have a motion to close and take it under advisement. Are there any other questions on the board? Is there any confusion out there in the audience that you would like cleared up? Okay, the motion on the table is to close the hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll bring the coffee.
Tim, how old are your twins now?
8.
Eight!
Get out of town.
8! How did they grow so fast?
We've been here a very long time. Why are people doing that?
Have a nice weekend, Tim.
Matt, Tim. Michael and Donna Bradley, 153 Oyster Pond Road, Falmouth, for permission to construct 2 additions, a deck and a living room, remove a tree, install native mitigation plantings, put back a tree,
What do you need another thing?
and the associated clearing, excavation, grading, and landscaping. Jen, do you have any questions
No,
before we
I
begin?
don't. No.
Tom, good
Jim,
evening.
I'll hold any of my comments until after Mr. Bunker's presentation.
Thank you. This is pretty thin, Tom. Yes.
Thank you for the record. My name is Tom Bunker, BSS Design. Prepared this plan for Michael and Donna Bradley at 153 Oyster Pond Road. Hope you can find it. It's not directly on Oyster Pond Road, but it's up there. What we
I
have
never
is
knew that little road existed. That was exciting.
Isn't it nice? Go up there, a little
Yeah,
kind of modern style houses.
yeah.
Modern style houses with a big lawn. We have down at the bottom, actually barely on this lot and mostly on the budding lot going away down toward the ocean. There's a isolated wetland down in that area, which has 50-foot A zone from it, 100-foot B zone, 2-to-1 mitigation. All this area here is lawn. What they want to do is put on 2 additions, one being a deck on the back side of the house that's beyond the 100 feet, and the other is an addition in this location, which is only a first floor addition. It's only going out in that way. It's expansion of the living room, basically. Obviously, because it's so close, that tree there, 16-inch oak tree, would have to be removed. We are doing the mitigation, 2-to-1 mitigation in this area, 240 square feet of native shrubs and an oak tree, white oak tree in that corner. I'll take questions. That's it.
Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Jen, any questions?
No question.
Lori?
No question.
Mike?
No question.
Tom?
I was just curious, because I kind of like blueberry bushes. Are they gonna be high bush or low bush?
I think, well, I don't think your bylaws allow the low bush.
They're gonna be high bush.
It would be high bush.
Okay, thank you. Don't mind right
Low
out
bush
of
can be mowed over too easily.
that. Yeah. Nice project. Thank you.
No questions.
Okay.
Motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to close and take it under advisement. Are there any further questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, we'll take a vote. Motion on the table is to close and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. He knows. William and Karen Monroe, 26 and Lot 179 Ferry Road, East Falmouth, for permission to install vinyl sheet piling behind the existing revetment at 26 Ferry Road, extending southwest to the existing bulkhead on Lot 179, add boulders on the top of the coastal bank on Ferry Road. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll sit in and answer questions until after Mr. Borsell's presentation.
Okay, good evening, Mike.
Madam Chairman, good evening. Members of the
No, we
commission.
haven't done, this is new, so anybody who thinks they weren't here because we haven't started.
Right. This is a continued hearing, but it was continued for a procedural matter,
Right.
which I'll get into.
That
I
was
have a
on-
butters notifications.
It doesn't matter, we haven't opened it.
No, it's not over.
It doesn't matter, we didn't
I
open.
didn't get anything from the 18th. I haven't seen any of this paperwork.
Oh,
That's all
well,
I'm saying.
oh, okay, well,
I have butters notifications that are, there's 2 sets of notifications here. One for
Okay.
the initial notification,
right,
and then one for notification of the continuance.
okay,
And the reason, I just want to speak briefly about that. We applied for a notice of intent. We filed it on November 27th by hand delivery. And we have since that time become aware of some neighborhood opposition to our proposed application. And in the neighbors' opposition to, in their review of our documents, their attorney, Bob Ahmed, discovered a defect, a minor technicality in my mind. And and the procedures for the abutter notification. And that, in my mind, minor technical defect is there's a requirement to notify abutters concurrently or at the same time that you file your notice of intent, that you filed the notice of intent. If you know the hearing date, you also must notify them when you know the hearing date, which we do in the same letter. I didn't notify the abutters concurrently or at the same time because I wasn't clear on the hearing date until the next day, the 28th. So I notified the abutters that I had filed the notice of intent the day after I filed the notice of intent. So when we became aware of that, in an act of good faith and courtesy, we continued the hearing. But I made sure I knew the date of the continued hearing. And once I knew the date of the continued hearing, which was determined on a Wednesday because you vote it, I assumed you were going to vote that, so I notified the abutters the same day of the fact that it was continued, so that I was doing the best I could to notify the abutters in proper form. Mr. Ahman also pointed out a deficiency. In his opinion, we didn't notify an adequate number of abutters. As you know, we're required to notify abutters within 100 feet of, and generally within 100 feet of the property, because typically it's a single-family lot, you're doing work on a lot, and you need to notify abutters within 100 feet of that parcel. Or in the case of, if there's a road, the people across the street, because they're going to be within 100 feet.
Yeah.
So we get a certified abutters list from the assessors, and we notify those abutters. We did that initially, too. When we became aware of the deficiency about the one-day notice, we, as I said, requested a continuance and notified abutters the same day of the continued day. And we expanded the notification list, if you will, of abutters to be, in our mind, very conservative and safe to make sure that we notified certainly all of the abutters that we believe are required to be notified. And in this case, because some work is proposed in a road layout, a private road layout at the very east side of Ferry Road, the people that live on Ferry Road, which is over 600 feet long, it goes from the eastern end at Sea Pit River to, in a westerly direction, all the way over to Childs River Road and Eel River. It's about 600 or 700 feet by scale on the Town JS map. So we notified all abutters fronting on that or within 100 feet of that road layout the second time, in an effort to be safe and make sure that everyone received proper notification. Now, I know there's some people opposed to this in that they will attack the procedural technicality of that, but in review of the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, section 10.05, 310 CMR 10.05, there's a section that says the Conservation Commission shall determine whether the applicant has complied with the abutter notification requirements. So we tried to do the best we could, given we had that one-day issue, and we continued it. I worked with staff to try to come to a consensus about the proper people to be notified. We contacted Tina Davies at DEP. She thought we were being prudent and safe in what we did. That all being said, it could be challenged, but that's why you have two sets of green cards, and one is an expanded set. So that all being said, what I'd like to do is present my project, but I know that there's going to be some opposition, and it's likely that I'm not qualified to address it because it has to do with property rights and things of that nature. But I want to make my presentation, listen to the questions, try to answer your questions, and see what how things might play out.
where we go next?
Where we
I'd
go
like to
next?
hear your presentation also.
Okay. I also became aware of about a half hour ago, about a letter from Mr. Ahmed's office that I'm probably not qualified to comment on. I barely was able to read it, but I glanced at it, so of course we can't comment on that. And at about 4:35 today, I got a copy of a letter from Holmes and McGrath as a courtesy from Mr. Ahmed to let me know that they had some questions and some concerns that they raised in a letter that, again, I just received and I haven't had a chance to comment on. Whether you need that information to render a decision, whether it becomes apparent that I should continue the hearing, that remains to be seen until after I make my presentation. But
Were those letters submitted to our record?
Not yet,
Not yet?
that's correct.
So that all being said, what we're proposing to do is simply continue a theme of protecting a coastal bank from erosion in an area adjacent to a revetment that you approved about a year ago and has been built, received an order of conditions, was constructed, was issued a certificate of compliance. And that was on the property owned by Mark and Patty Thoreau. They're co-applicants in this case, and they're in the audience, because they have interest in Ferry Road, and part of the work we're doing to connect their bulkhead to a new bulkhead is in the area of Ferry Road within which they have an interest. The other applicant is William and Karen Monroe, and they're also in the audience, and they own this property, and they approached me because they were concerned and wanted to take measures to protect the coastal bank, much like the Thoreaus did. So the project is basically to continue the bulkhead from where it terminates and returns at Ferry Road right-of-way line in a northerly direction to the property line in front of the Monroe's property here. All of this work is proposed either on an eroding coastal bank, just at the toe of it, in the case of Ferry Road, or behind a stone revetment that exists on the Monroe property, so that no work will be seaward of that revetment. In fact, early on, there was a concept where we were thinking about installing it seaward of the revetment, but we met with staff, and we were pretty quickly discouraged from that technique. So this is a common way now that you're going to be seeing more applications where some of these older stone ripraps are showing signs of failure, and the failure is due to what they call piping, where soil material is washed through the voids because they didn't have proper filter cloth. So what happens is the soil starts to pipe through, and then you have subsidence behind the wall, and then it can be exacerbated over time and cause even more erosion on a coastal bank. So the sheeting being driven directly behind the existing revetment, in effect, seals off any more piping. So the project is to install this sheet piling material. It's vinyl sheet piling, which was installed here, the same material, connect to it, connected in a way that there is no potential for seepage or leakage between the existing wall and the new wall, because it'll be connected and sealed off properly with filter cloth. And then to install it just behind the a stone revetment that exists. The wall then, we have to assume that when we design these walls, we have to assume that something may occur in the future where the stones may not be there. We don't assume that there's some structural benefit to the stones, because something could happen and they could get moved or damaged or knocked about by a hurricane. So the method to install these includes the driving of the sheet piling and then the installation of helical anchors to help keep it supported back. There's some invasive plant material at the top of the stone revetment here. When we do this work, there's going to be some disruption of that invasive plant material. The plan is to fully restore any of that damaged area with, we think in this case bayberry would be an appropriate plant, but we're happy to work with staff to select the appropriate plant material. There's construction cross-section. There's some other details. It's the same. It's the same exact system that you approved next door. So, what we're here to do is to protect the coastal bank, protect both the road and the property with the house on it. We're not in any way attempting to impact anyone's property rights or rights in Ferry Road if those rights exist, and I'm not qualified to render that opinion. I'm sure there'll be some issues raised, and I will answer the issues that I feel qualified to answer, but if I'm not qualified, I'm going to defer. It may require us to seek legal counsel. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Court. Oh, Jen.
Just say
Jen-
one quick thing.
Jen,
Sorry, Madam Chairman. Just that the board did ask the applicant at the original for lot 179 to extend that bulkhead across.
To the north.
Okay, you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess no other comments, other than that, the staff did discourage for going into the salt marsh. So I feel, the only question I have, Mike, have you had anybody structurally look at that wall?
Other than
You're gonna
me,
be, I know how, I've seen you guys do sheet piling many times, it's the vibration of that going to disturb that wall.
in my opinion, no. What may happen is that there's some vibration into the soil, and the rocks that exist may vibrate slightly, but the sheet piling that's behind it is not going to cause the wall to shift or fail or collapse. We're talking about basically one row of boulders. It's not a structure with any significant height.
Okay. Thank you.
Courtney.
The removal of invasives, what methodologies are you going to employ?
I haven't proposed an actual methodology for invasive removal because we're not actually actively going to remove invasives. We're assuming that some of the invasives will be disturbed during the access by, it's a very small rubber tracked Kubota size excavator, so that is about 4 or 5 feet wide. So where that tracks back and forth is where we expect there'll be some invasive damage, and we're going to take the opportunity to try to replant that area and start to establish native planting. I haven't proposed any protocol or aggressive invasive removal program like you may be used to when that's the actual project main activity.
No, and I understand that, Mike. I'm just thinking, if you're going to do some restorations of natives and so on, it sort of makes logical sense to deal with the invasives at that point. I mean, it's kind of like
Otherwise, they're just gonna be overtaken by the invasives.
yeah, right. My next question revolves around the fact that the project is encompassing not only the land owned by the Monroes, but then also Ferry Road. And typically, we want to know if Ferry Road is owned by somebody else, either the town or private individuals, is there permission for that in the file?
Yes. My answer to that, which has been translated to me is, and I'm going to talk as an engineer with limited legal experience, that both the Munros, well, first of all, Ferry Road is a private way, and the Munros and Thoreaus, from my discussions, have a fee each to the center line, which basically means they have a fee interest to the center line, and Ferry Road is 40 feet wide, so they both have ownership to the center line from their side. It has been suggested that there are others that may have interest, but I can't comment on that.
No, and I fully understand that our competence and whatever in terms of determining that stuff, that's not our job, okay? Our job is to deal with the regulatory issues that are contained in this. However, if we're gonna write an order of conditions, we have to write it binding on this Ferry Road. And that's the, sort of the fly in the ointment from my standpoint. That's all I'm asking for, I'm not, and if that opens a can of worms, I'm sorry it does, but, you know.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I'm just gonna follow up on that,
Okay,
because I have that too, that I don't have any problem with the project, except I have the same comment that you do about the invasive plants. But the Ferry Road part, my understanding, I thought, I live on a private road, and I own to the middle of the road, to the middle of my part of the road. But I know that some roads, private roads are that way, and some private roads, everybody on the road collectively owns that road. And until I know, you know, until we're comfortable with who owns the road, I'm uncomfortable issuing.
Well, if I could, Madam Chairman, I understand you needing to know that answer. I have a feeling that Mr. Ahmed is going to have something to say about that, but I also would like to point out that my clients have knowledge that they provided to me through their closing documents and things that they may want to mention. But if the Thoreaus or the Munros want to speak to that, they're here, and I offer the podium to them, but
Well,
I'm not.
they can speak, and Bob can speak, but I'm just saying, I want document in the record that shows that.
Mhm.
I mean, we can issue, right, I mean, we have to hear what
Sure, I understand.
other
I
questions,
understand.
but, you know, we can issue something on this lot right now, but the question is, are we comfortable with issuing it on the other part until we have something in the record?
Mhm.
So, before we get to that, because I know that that's gonna be an issue, let's just go down the board to talk about the project itself, and then we'll get back.
Two things, so, regarding the invasive.
No, before you
can't-
do that.
You can't say anything
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
I'm just telling you that I'm not gonna call on you yet.
Thank you.
But I see you there, and I will,
thank you.
and I will call on you. Do you have any questions?
I do believe we're gonna see more projects like this because of the technologies to back up an existing structure. I really don't have, the technique, it's becoming more common, and I have a very big comfort level with the installation of these things with the equipment being used. I don't see it being terribly, disruptive to the existing stone pieces. And the other things are gonna fall where they may, that part of the, that
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah, and this way,
wait to see.
it worked well
Yes,
here,
yes, it did.
so. Mike?
It did work well. There was at least one tree to the south that I had doubts about. It's healthy, it looks great, and so it doesn't. This seems to be more challenging in terms of preserving the trees in the northwest corner of the property. If you can get that machine in and get those tiebacks installed, there are at least 4 tiebacks that are gonna be between the deck.
Yep.
And if you think that isn't gonna require some restoration, you're more optimistic than I am. And I just want some assurances that you've shown some number of trees that will be removed and some that will be preserved. And if other trees are damaged, they'll be replaced. That's, you know, it is the same technique. I have lots of confidence in it, particularly after seeing it. But I think this is a more, in terms of constructability, I guess is the word, is more challenging to the resource. Okay. That's my 2 cents.
Lori?
I kind of just want to understand this a little better. So there is a recently constructed vinyl wall that you're going to hook up to this new constructed vinyl wall by blowing across the road. Otherwise, you would just put the jig in like you have at the other corner. Okay,
Yep, you understand it completely.
just want to make sure I understood.
Are any of these trees that are gonna be removed, replaced? I see remove a 19-inch deciduous tree, remove a 10-inch deciduous tree.
We, at this time, we didn't propose any tree removal. We were hopeful that restoring the buffer with shrubby material after construction would mitigate for that. There's a limited area available to plant trees.
It doesn't necessarily have to be replaced in the same spot.
True. We can
You think about that.
think about that.
Which means you're gonna be replacing 2 trees.
As a minimum.
Now, no, not you yet, Bob.
Karen Lindner.
Yes,
You have to come up to the podium as well.
good evening.
Good
And you have to tell us who you are so
I'm
the
Karen
whole world
Monroe.
knows who you are.
My husband
Okay.
and I own 26 Ferry Road. And
And then, the man downstairs,
Eladio. Sometime last year, I had hired attorney Laura Moynihan to establish our rights. And I went down to him to see if we were okay to put in this application, and he said yes, and that
After
he would.
Mr. Gore?
Yes.
Ladio Gore.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
sorry. And that he would, I showed him the documentation, and he said he would stand by it.
But we need to see the documentation.
Oh, so I wasn't aware.
Yeah,
I can provide it.
okay.
That's fine.
And then my husband's an arborist, so
Oh,
he can
okay.
speak to the invasives.
Okay, I thought he was gonna speak to the trees, but he can also speak to the invasive.
Or the trees.
So we can do a caliper for caliper replacement or whatever mitigation is necessary.
Mike knows what the range is, and you can
Right,
discuss it
right.
with him. Yep, but I agree with Courtney. I mean, and you must have seen what happens if you, and unfortunately, when those of us who have been on for a while, you go back to sites where people have put some mitigation planning in, but say that lot next door has invasives, and they don't take care of the mitigation planning,
Right.
and it very quickly gets enveloped. And so our suggestion is if there's gonna be, if you have invasives between the house and the wall, why don't you take this opportunity to
Right,
clear
deal
it and
with
put
them,
some,
yeah.
yeah,
We'd like that. I mean, that would be great.
okay. So, and work with Mike on that.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Bob?
Thank you and good evening. I'm Bob Ament. I'm a Falmouth attorney, as you all know. And I represent a group of property owners in the neighborhood on Ferry Road to the west of Locust, or on Sea Pit, which is going north and south away from the water. And some of our clients are are here tonight, the Whalens and the Castles. I am sorry that I did not submit materials to the board before this time. We have been having almost continuous correspondence with Karen Monroe and with Mike Borselli in recent days, and truly expected that there would be a continuance of this matter for reasons which should become clear to you very quickly. As you'll also be able to see, a lot of work has gone into this on our part. I will give you the correspondence that I prepared, which I would like to read to you. It's 7 paragraphs long, and also the correspondence regarding these plans from Holmes and McGrath that critiques and finds considerable problems with these plans. So let me just read to you what I've written, and I'll give it to you with multiple exhibits. The letter says that Ament Law Firm, together with Rubin and Rudman, attorneys in Boston, represent 5 families whose properties are located in Sea Pit on or near Ferry Road, where William and Karen Monroe proposed to install a seawall that will block our clients' deeded access along Ferry Road that extends to Sea Pit River. Our clients include David and Martha Castles of 114 Sea Pit, Alex Hammer of 120 Sea Pit, and Carol Wayland of 110 Sea Pit, and others. Our clients object to the Monroe's filing on procedural and substantive grounds. Now, all the property in question, both Ferry Road and our clients' several lots, are registered land, and there are pertinent easement rights in the entire length of Ferry Road, both by language in land court certificates of title, and I'm going to give you 3 of the certificates of title which specifically state that our clients have rights of way in the ways shown on the plan. The plan shows Ferry Road. They have those rights either by the deed or by estoppel. That is the case of Hickey versus Lepore, a land court case issued just in March 19 of 2013, under very similar facts, establishes the right of access. And that's saying that with regard to easements by estoppel, there is no distinction between registered and unregistered land. Now, as the holders of easement rights in Ferry Road, our clients hold what in Massachusetts is called the dominant estate. And under 310 CMR 10.04, the regulations to the Wetlands Act, they are considered, with respect to Ferry Road, landowners. As such, they would be entitled to file an NOI application for a Conservation Commission permit. Our clients submit that the Monroe's notice of intent is procedurally defective, and the Commission does not have jurisdiction to hear the case because notices were not given in compliance with either the State Wetlands Act or the Local Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Both the regulations to the Act, that's 310 CMR 10.054A, and the local bylaw, FWR 10.055E, require notices to be given concurrently or at the same time as a permit application is filed. The DEP guidelines, those are the ones that were published in April of 1994, they specified that notice must be given on the same day as filing, and that notice given even 1 day later will not satisfy the statutory requirement. In this case, the NOI was filed on November 27, 2013. Mr. Berselli's initial certificate states that notices were not mailed until November 28, 2013. Such notice has been held to be defective. Notice given even later than that in an effort to correct the defect doesn't solve that problem. I'm giving you a copy of the case in the matter of John Sloan. It's a administrative law judge decision for the DEP issued April 30, 2007, which confirms that this is the law. The only cure for this failure to meet the notice requirement would be to refile the NOI and then to give timely notices. Now, as Mr. Borselli noted, the usual requirement of notice being required to be given to abutters and others within 100 feet of a property line of the lot where the work is to occur, that doesn't apply in this case. Here the property, the subject property, is a layout of streets, and it extends a long way from where the activity is proposed. The DEP guidelines dated April 8, 1994 provide a standard of notice, and it says that that standard is 1,000 feet from the activity. We submit that the applicants have not given notice to all those entitled to notice in accordance with the regulation. We will check the cards and the information that Mr. Borselli has submitted, but we are aware of people who do own property within 1,000 feet of the site who did not receive notices. Ferry Road got its name from being the site where a century ago a ferry went back and forth to Washburn Island on a cable. The stairs, I should say, this really is a can of worms. I'm going to tell you now, and it has to do with the access. If you will allow me to, please, this has to do with the access and the impact of the wall, and also a procedural issue that is going to arise because of a subsequent application that we filed. Well, I'm going to tell you now about stairs that until last year went down to the shore, a walkway, and a pier that was in this location for some 50 years. Those stairs were built more than 50 years ago, well before there was a Falmouth Conservation Commission. I'm submitting to you photos of the pier, the stairs, the walkway. The most recent ones were taken in 2011. The earliest was taken in 1974, before the Conservation Commission regulations. Our clients and their predecessors in the Sea Pit used Ferry Road for some 50 years to access those structures. The photos taken in 2011 showed that the stairs, wood walkway, and pier were then in good condition. Prior to Tropical Storm Sandy in 2012, the decking on the pier was removed in preparation for the storm. A picture taken during the storm by Allison Castles, who's here tonight, shows that the decking had already been removed. The removed decking was stored behind the wood bulkhead along the shore. One section of the already stored decking was apparently blown into the water next to the bulkhead, but that section remained substantially intact. After the storm, Alex Hammer, Bob Whalen, and Mark Whalen removed the pier decking, 3 sections, each 10 to 12 feet in length, 2 from the storage area behind the bulkhead and the 3rd from the water nearby. And they carried them up across the still intact walkway and up the intact stairs to store them at the Hammer residence on Ferry Road. The decking is still there, intact. The point is, it wasn't destroyed in the storm. What happened next is a little hard to believe. An owner of one of the waterfront houses represented to some neighbors that he was required to remove the piling and stairs, but that he would cooperate to then restore the access. Apparently taking improper advantage of the post-storm situation using substantial equipment without a proper permit issued by the Conservation Commission, the waterfront owner removed the stairs and walkway and took out the pilings. Although the structures did not have a Chapter 91 license and therefore perhaps could not have been repaired pursuant to emergency regulations, the lack of a Chapter 91 license for the 50-year-old structures in no way justified characterization of the stairs and pilings as storm debris, nor the removal of the structures as an emergency repair. The stairs and pier were not located in a velocity zone and could have been licensed. The stairs that our clients used to access the river and the pier from which they fished, where they tied their boats, were all gone. Taken away not by the storm, but by someone who took advantage of the storm. The stairs and pier had been a fixture in the neighborhood for over 50 years and added greatly not only to the enjoyment of our clients' properties, but to the value of their homes. The removal of stairs has also made it very difficult for our clients to get down from Ferry Road to the shore. Now, our clients intend shortly to file a notice of intent to obtain an order of conditions to restore stairs and a pier extending from the end of Ferry Road. We have sought the Monroe's cooperation. And I should say that both Mr. Borselli and Mrs. Monroe have been generous in their time. They've been responsive. They have been cordial. But we have very, very strong disagreements about the impact of what is proposed to be done on our clients. The proposed seawall is going to close off what remaining access there is on Ferry Road to the river in violation of our clients' access rights. Moreover, since our clients are landowners of the way as defined in the wetland regulations, and they're planning to file a notice of intent for work in the same area that the Monroe NOI concerns, conflicts will be created if there are two orders for different work. Conflicts as to the work approved, responsibilities, liability, certificate of compliance issues, etc. What is required is a cooperative, coordinated design. We've asked the Monroes to withdraw their application, for which their notice is defective as stated above, and to work together. At a minimum, we ask that this matter be continued to allow further discussion. Now that's the end of my letter, and I'm going to read to you the shorter letter from Holmes and McGrath.
That was only 7 paragraphs?
It was only 7 paragraphs, but 7 very good paragraphs. Mr. McGrath, Jeff Johnson of Holmes and McGrath writes, Dear Commissioners, please accept this letter for your consideration with regard to the above referenced notice of intent. Plan review. The plan submitted with the NOI contains insufficient construction detail for the proposed work. Section AA shows both in plan and detailed view, is labeled typical. The elevation of the top of the proposed wall is not identified. The detail, section AA, shows the existing stone riprap and indicates minor regrading of the coastal bank above the wall. Based on the scale of this section, the top of the wall appears to be at or near elevation N8 NGVD in the area south of the existing pier, where the existing timber stairs will be built. The plan shows no detail for how the stairs on either side will connect to or be constructed over the proposed wall. The stairs above the wall end at an elevation shown on the plan as 6.7 feet. Again, there's no construction detail. In the area within the layout of Ferry Road, the differences between the typical section and the actual slope, existing and proposed conditions, is greater. The southern end of the proposed wall connects to the existing wall on lot 179 with a label that reads, blend new bulkhead to recently installed bulkhead. What does blend mean? The elevation of the top of the recently installed wall on lot 179 is at or near elevation 10 NGVD. The existing ground elevations at the proposed wall location are shown near elevation 4 NGVD. Tie rods are shown on the plan, but there is no proposed change in grade landward of the proposed wall within the layout of Ferry Road. Is fill proposed on the coastal bank landward of the proposed wall in this location? If so, how much? In any event, it is clear that the section detail shown on the plan is not typical. More detail should be shown to illustrate the proposed work. The existing conditions on site show significant erosion at the end of and around the return section of the recently constructed wall on lot 179. This erosion is the result of surface runoff from lot 179 directed to this corner of the lot. If the proposed wall will blend into the existing wall at the same elevation, it is possible that the surface runoff could pond landward of the proposed wall and flood Ferry Road. The proposed plans accompanying the notice of intent do not take this runoff or drainage into consideration. Drainage detail should be provided to account for surface runoff from lot 179 and Ferry Road, which slopes downhill towards the work area all the way from Seapit. The plan notes that the proposed wall will be located above mean high water and therefore not subject to Chapter 91 regulations. Mean high water is shown at or near elevation 1.4 NGVD. The ground elevations along the base of the proposed wall across Ferry Road are at or near elevation 2.0 NGVD. Erosion by wave action is generally amplified by reflection of the water on vertical walls. Although the note on the plan is technically correct, it is more than likely that the mean high water will move landward with change caused by erosion and will touch the wall. Should this occur, the wall will be subject to Chapter 91 regulations. The state may then presumably require public access up and around the new bulkhead. Section 4.0 on page A4 of the NOI project narrative states that the proposed project meets the performance standards of the wetland regulations. 3 of the bulleted items do not apply to the section of the wall that crosses Ferry Road. The narrative states that the project will not increase erosion, alter wave action, or change the form of the adjacent beach because the new bulkhead will be installed behind an existing riprap. There is no existing riprap running across the layout of Ferry Road. It is highly likely that the proposed wall will increase erosion and change the form of the coastal beach by creating a vertical surface for wave reflection. The narrative further states that there will be no impact to wildlife habitat and only minor vegetative disturbance. While this may be true on the residential portion of 26 Ferry Road, the vegetation on the entire coastal bank across Ferry Road will be eliminated by the proposed project. No restoration or planting is proposed in this area according to the NOI. The narrative also states that the proposed bulkhead does not involve any expansion within land subject to coastal storm flowage or a coastal bank because it is located behind an existing riprap wall. This too is not correct for the portion of the wall crossing Ferry Road. The proposed wall at the end of Ferry Road is considered new armoring, and it is not located behind an existing or previously licensed coastal engineering structure. State and local wetland regulations prohibit new armoring of a coastal bank. Sites are given, and both prohibit the construction of a new bulkhead or other coastal engineering structure on a coastal bank unless it is required to prevent storm damage to buildings constructed prior to August 10, 1978. That's the state regulation, or March 22, 1989. That's the local regulation. The project plans and NOI do not contain any evidence or information that the proposed bulkhead across Ferry Road is necessary to protect such structures. Therefore, that proportion of the proposed bulkhead may not be approvable. That's Mr. McGrath's letter. And included it is a copy of the case law, the certificates of title, the regulations of the DEP regarding notice, a copy of the administrative law judge's decision concerning the impact of the failure of giving correct notice, and some of the photographs I mentioned, and finally Mr. McGrath's letter. I will also email this to the commission for their use. So,
Do you have copies for everyone, Bob?
I don't have copies for everyone. I'd be happy to get you copies.
Yes, please, Bob. You know how much we love having
Okay,
things like this.
on the mic.
Madam Chairman, a
What?
couple of just comments on Mr.
Yeah.
presentation, please. Most of his, as you know, property rights is not under the purview of this board. I would have preferred Mr. Ahmet kept his comments to this particular application. If his clients wish to file an application, they've been told they can, for a stairway down the bank. They
Yep,
are
that's irrelevant,
absolutely-
but the ownership of Ferry Road
Yeah,
is,
that needs to
is
be handled.
particularly relevant, and also, Mike,
And we will review Mr.
The-
McGrath's submittal.
the,
Where is Mr. McGrath's submittal?
the other, well, the most relevant part of Mike's submittal, Jeff's letter,
That's
was to
the-
answer the question about new armoring.
Yep.
And so, I would suggest that since this is all new to you and you have to look at it, we have 2 choices right now. You can either ask for a continuance, or you can withdraw without prejudice and put in a new submission. But, you might, and I'll give you a chance to talk about that if you want before. I see heads nodding in the back.
And there's a third option, which we wouldn't take, which is to
Well,
close
you
the
don't, nobody wants us to close the hearing and take it under advisement right now. We don't
Nobody
want
wants
it,
that.
you don't want that.
Understood. So you're saying we can table it for a minute and talk?
Yeah, we'll table it,
Okay.
and you have that choice.
Do you want a motion to table?
Yes.
Motion to table for a short period so the client can discuss things.
We have a second?
Second.
And we'll move on,
Oh,
if I can,
take the vote.
oh, All in favor?
Aye.
Favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you. Unanimous, so moved. Do we have any orders?
Yes.
Okay, let's work on the orders. 157 Fay Road. That was the plant restoration.
If you have to have discussions, excuse me, if you're gonna have discussions, please leave the room. Thank you.
157? That was the plant,
20 minutes.
huh?
Uh, 157.
Blue Fox
Yep.
Yeah? Or,
Quorum.
I have my phone. Hang on. Lori, Mike, Betsy, Tom, Quartz.
Lori, Mike,
Yeah, it's all of
Betsy, Tom, Court, all of us.
All of you.
Great.
Very good.
Yeah, the only thing I had about this was to have a plan that comes in with the stone wall.
Right, that was at the top of the,
Right.
yes.
Well, that,
Plan with stone wall and to have it, stamped.
Right here.
Yeah.
stamped, right.
Yep.
Yeah. And other than that, the.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a nice project.
Oh, yeah, well,
And so nice to see that they're planting that dune area to help create more dune there. And those plants will just continue to grow up as the dune continues to grow up.
That's right. Motion to accept the order is discussed.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept the orders discussed,
Yes.
say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
yes.
69 Barneck Road, Jewett Realty Trust number 3.
This is a Mr. Grass presentation out on,
Barneck Road.
Barnett.
That one had the,
There were no, I don't think there was any issue or
no, it's just the simple things here.
with that.
I only had a concern that this is not above the velocity zone. He has to change it
Yeah,
to
change
And he
it.
did-
in the velocity
He
zone.
did
Oh,
agree
he
to that.
Oh, well,
I believe he did agree.
he did agree to it.
Reluctantly, I think, my recollection is that reluctantly, that he admitted he would change that in the
Well, it'll be a
submitted plan.
special condition to
Right.
have them,
Right.
submit a revised plan prior to.
The other question with the propane tank, if that's actually being removed, and we
pro-
want to know
If they put gas to it,
gas and.
Gas, they need
They
to
have
do
to-
something
Yeah, you
for
want to see a
gas.
line,
Yep.
there you
Yep.
go.
they'd have to get an amendment.
And Toby Lane, Madam Chair.
Oh,
Okay, we haven't
a
voted.
motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second?
Okay, the order is to, the motion is to accept the order to discuss. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 53 Toby Lane,
This is one where we wanted the applicant to revise the plan to show a T because currently it was an I and it's causing damage to
it's
septic habitat.
it's replacing the
Yeah.
previously
Yes.
established dock.
Yep,
So we have the
In a new-
grandfather thing taken care of?
Yes.
Yep.
yes.
Well,
And
that's up to the board. I mean, the board can
And the
decide
No,
whether.
6-foot
I-
deep holes were changed to 4 foot?
Right, yep, that is correct. And then there's no pipes or outhauls or 4x4s along the waterfront. All that stuff is gonna be
Yep.
the existing blue line and such that was the ropes and such.
And it shows the mooring field now.
Yes,
Okay.
with those revisements, I'd like to make a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept the order for 53 Toby Lane, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Yep.
Thanks, Kevin.
Now, was the, just out of,
They have a legitimate concern.
The other one, when they started talking about. While ago,
Was this originally gonna be on the 18th? 'Cause I'm just trying to figure out why I didn't get any paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Chair, recognizing the audience, I'd like to untable the project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, did you second it? Yeah. Okay, all in favor of untabling, what's the name of this project?
Monroe.
26 in Lot 179 Ferry Road. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Sorry
Good
for the delay,
good
there's a
evening
lot
again.
to consider, so.
Yep.
We're going to request a continuance.
Okay,
I need to know what dates are available.
how long do you do?
I would like to continue it to February 12th.
Okay,
I didn't know if it was available.
no, fine.
On behalf of the applicant, I'd like to propose this to be continued to February 12th.
Second?
any
Hoping,
questions from the audience?
Well, there may be people here who have something to say who will not be able to be back on February 12th, so I think that before.
I just said, are there any questions?
There
It's
you go.
not, I'm not referring just to you, I'm referring to anyone who's sitting in the audience.
Thank you for hearing me.
This gentleman has been here the entire night.
I showed up at 7 o'clock. My name's Carl Fonseca. I'm a resident of 100 Charles River Road. I use the pier in question that they're talking about replacing with a wall that would block my access to the water there. My dad purchased this property from Mr. Swift, who in 1926 subdivided this property. And in all of our deeds, it says that we have access guaranteed to the water. It's different than in some other neighborhoods where you own halfway across the street or within 100 feet of the street or abutting the street. The whole neighborhood owns the street. And like I said, when I was 10 years old, I had a boat tied up to that little pier. And as short as 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4 years ago, I had a sunfish tied up there. So I don't know how it disappeared. It was, one day it was gone. I would take the attorney's word at big machinery came in and took it out on a weekend probably.
Do you have a neighborhood association?
We don't. It's a shortcoming.
Well,
I have a question to ask you.
maybe not. Yeah.
I have a question. Did the association ever repair that dock over the years?
It wasn't the landowners on the waterfront that did. It was people in the neighborhood that did.
Did you ever file a permit with the Conservation Commission to repair the dock over the years?
It wasn't me that did it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have those documents you want to
The
submit?
document that I do have is, he also has submitted, I haven't made copies of my deed that shows that we have right of
If
it.
you'd like
right
to
of
submit
use.
that for the record, sir, if you want to come back and we can scan it in or make a copy
Make
for you
copies.
tomorrow morning.
Sure, I can do that. I can do that. Whether or not pounding a couple of nails into a dock constitutes the need to take up a review with and use the community's valuable time, I find to be a little questionable.
Anything
when-
on
There's a-
water
there-
within the commission's
this is a-
jurisdiction?
This is a dock that was damaged by the hurricane.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
It was,
We have aerial photos, sir.
we've seen-
Oh, before and after, but from what I've heard from the neighbors that live there.
From years that this dock has kind of grown in length and shortened, so I mean, there has been alteration to the dock over the years, and anybody that lives on the waterfront knows that it's well within the commission's jurisdiction.
It just sounds like to me that they're
Any
trying to
water-
block off the access, public
And,
access
you
to
know,
the water.
that's a different
That's a
issue. The
different
issue
issue.
that she brought up,
Right.
the issue
Right.
she brought up is, this is not a licensed dock.
Isn't
You-
there something as like a grandfather? I mean, like he said, it was there before the
If you
commission
do
existed.
any alterations to an original dock, any alterations, you need to come in, have a notice of intent,
I tied a boat up to
Get
it,
it.
I never pounded a nail in it.
get a chapter 91.
I used it for
License.
No, I
for 40
understand, so
plus
there were a
years.
lot of people involved with the
The maintenance.
maintenance of the structure, I understand that.
Okay.
It was just a question.
She wasn't,
I'm not on trial.
I'm not-
She
no,
wasn't-
no,
no,
yeah, she wasn't-
not at all.
putting you on trial. But just to understand the process, for you and we can all.
I'm not
assure-
saying I want the dock back, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have a seawall
Well,
to
no,
protect
no,
their
this
property.
has nothing to do right now with the dock. This has to do
Yeah.
with the project that's in front of us,
Yeah.
which is to put a seawall
Yeah.
across something that goes down to the water.
Yeah.
Well, goes like that down to the water. And the dock is a different issue.
Yeah, yeah. That the dock existed is just something I wanted to have on record.
Yeah,
I don't care that there's a dock there.
and we just.
I just want to have access
we
to the
just
water
want-
as my deed
Yeah,
guarantees.
and we just want people to understand that with this idea of a grandfathered dock, if.
Well, I've
people are-
run into that actually with the Conservation Commission before, trying to beach my boat on a different location, on a landing. So,
Okay,
I understand.
thanks.
Thank you very much for your.
And if you
Yes.
want to drop those off to Melanie tomorrow morning, she'll make you copies.
Mrs.
Or make us
Monroe,
copies.
is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just ask that you continue with the idea of a grandfather dock and finish what you were about to say?
Oh, with a grandfathered dock?
You said this idea.
If somebody has a grandfathered dock and there's gonna be an alteration to it, they have to come in for a notice of intent. It has to be permitted by the Conservation Commission, and it needs a Chapter 91 license.
Okay.
And doesn't Chapter 91 go back into the last century?
Mhm.
So really, any docks
Need to be licensed.
should be licensed.
Would permits need to be taken out to remove such a structure?
You would
Any
have to
oth-
get permission. It could be that the act of removing it would not require a permit. It could be done
Madam Chairman.
under an RDA.
With the stairs. Staff gave permission to remove the stairs because, one, the stairs are heavily damaged. I myself almost went through them going down to review the seawall for 179. The stairs were in complete disrepair from the storm. And I have photos, and it was causing erosion to the bank. So when asked if they could be removed, I said yes, because it was causing erosion to the bank. The stairs were in disrepair, it was an issue, we didn't know who owned Ferry Road at the time. It was an administrative decision. Because
Is that
I
your
almost
question?
went through the stairs.
You're done?
And below when reviewing the thing for 179.
Okay, are there any other comments from the audience? Sir,
I would like to contest her description of the repair of the stairs.
Sir?
My name's Bob Wayland.
Okay.
I'm one of the people who live there. My son, Alex Hammer, who's not here, none of them are here, we carried the 3 deck pieces up from behind the bulkhead, up those stairs, and over to Hammer's lot. The stairs were a little wobbly from one of the loss of posts. There was no danger of falling through or anything that broke on that side. We had carried that stuff up. Those stairs were easily reparable, and the remedy was, was to repair them, not to tear them down.
People's idea of repair must be very different. We live right.
it is very different, and actually,
And I would not allow
this-
my kids on those stairs.
this-
They were very
this-
dangerous.
this line of
Yeah.
discussion
I just don't know when to
is
stop.
irrelevant. Well, no,
Okay,
but
so
it's
if-
irrelevant to
That's
this
perfect.
particular
That's just what I wanna
project, to the
hear.
project that Mike presented to us, which is what this hearing is about. Are there any other questions? Bob?
We simply think that this project needs to be amended to include stairs that access the water where the access is being blocked off. That isn't necessarily inconsistent with the goals of the Monroes, but it is really essential.
Bob, you all in the neighborhood have almost a month, and I know you've worked together, and you might not have come to a mutual resolution, but I would certainly hope by the next time we see all of you that we would have moved further
That would be
along.
great. Thank you.
But I do want Mike to keep in mind, putting armoring where armoring doesn't exist, which is, when I was looking at these plans, I'm like,
I sit here as a registered professional engineer, and frequently I see details on plans that I have questions about as an engineer, but the details don't impact the resources, so I sit on it because I don't think I'm doing anybody any favors if I say something that is wrong, that I think will endanger. I feel obligated, so I bring it up. But when you bring forth deficiencies in plans, be careful what you're asked for.
I think the board is lucky to have you on the board. And your expertise is terrific for the board to have. It seems to me that the provision for taking care of the runoff coming off of Route 179.
He's not
I'm
talking-
making a general
he's just making a
comment.
general statement.
I'm just saying that you made a long list of details.
well, he
and
didn't.
if
Well, I
you
didn't.
It
did-
was an
I
expert
didn't-
letter.
Another
He's
expert.
He's just suggesting that we don't get the kitchen sink,
I
that
understand.
only relevant details.
I also
Okay,
presume
and
that there
I-
are some
I-
responses that may be
For all the
made.
engineers that come before you, before me, I'm going to try to bite my tongue from time to time, but don't turn me loose.
Yeah, don't turn them loose.
Noted,
We
thank
can-
you.
We can verify that.
I think like the last applicant before
It's-
this.
we have to go up into
You
the
have to-
podium.
I want to see a couple of Mike's plans someday, too. I want to,
You want to see Mike's plans?
Oh, he is typical all over his one.
so we've asked for a continuance to February 12th.
Right, but I'm gonna see if, well, we'll put that on the table. We haven't put that on the table yet, and then we'll have one more round. We haven't, have we, Susan?
I did.
Oh, we have.
I put a motion on
We're
it.
into,
Okay.
we're in the
And I,
question period.
yeah,
You have another question?
I have something that I'd like everybody in this room to know, is that the next time that I sit behind this table to hear this project, I would hope that the incidentals, I do not want to sit through another hearing like tonight. I do not want clouded issues, and if you cannot resolve this before February 12th, please get another continuance, because I do not want to sit with crossed swords behind here again. There's ample time to come to a resolution, and I'm serious about that. I do not want to have 2 more continuances or anything like that. This is something that, make up your minds and stick to it. I'm not going to be the one putting himself out again on things just to hear a debate for an hour and a half. I'm not
And
in
you
for that.
recognize that there are 2 parts to this, right? One part doesn't have a problem, one part does have a problem.
Understood.
And,
We'll
Madam
work.
Chairman, please have applicant, either the applicant or the concerned citizens submit their information in a timely manner.
Yeah, I mean,
have
at this point,
correspondence on the
we'd like
project dating
everything
back
in a
to
week ahead of
December
time, because there's a lot of material to go
10th,
through.
And I really don't want to hear another 7-paragraph letter read to us. So,
Courtney, do you have a question or a comment?
Just to brief, I want to second Tom's comments here. You know, as I sit here listening to this, you know, it really is far more than the technical aspects of constructing a bulkhead. It's much more about the people, every one of you sitting in this room, having, I think, legitimate concerns, depending on where you come from. I mean, you know, what your position is. But I think, and hopefully between now and the 12th, you guys can come to an agreement that, you know, I think there's the grounds for common agreement here that satisfies everybody. but you guys just have to sit down and work together cooperatively. So when it comes back, there's a project there that works for everybody and meets the regulations.
And meets the, yes. Okay, I'll call for the vote, unless anyone has any final words.
I just want to say, you're going to be coming up against this a lot in the future, I think, because seems to be the sea level's rising.
Well, sea level is rising, and there are a lot of issues, but that's for another evening, another forum. Okay, motion on the table is for a continuance to February 12th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.